No.
Good evening. Welcome. For those of you I haven't met, my name is Sonia. Where's the whiskey? Like, where's the whiskey? I am the Director of Development at the Fort Worth Report. Fort Worth is my hometown, and I'm so proud of the passion and purpose that our team brings to connecting our community through thoughtful, fair, and solutions-based reporting. We're here tonight to explore solutions, and we're so grateful that you've joined us. Thank you for being here. This really is the best part of my job, getting to say thank you. To my colleagues and friends in the newsroom, you are each exceptional, and I'm so proud of the work that you do. I value your work so much. Thank you to our board of directors for your leadership, your wholehearted belief in the value of local journalism, and for being true champions of our nonprofit newsroom every day. Thanks to Texas Wesleyan University for providing this beautiful space, and I'd like to invite Dr. Emily Messer up to say a few words of welcome. Thank you, Sonia, and welcome to Texas Wesleyan University. We are delighted that you're here this evening, and what a change. Usually we have morning events, but we're happy you're here this evening and get to see our holiday lights out in the K. Granger Mall. So I do have just a few items to discuss this morning, but before we do that, we have to talk about the historic football season we had. Did anyone Texas Wesleyan University won our conference championship, but made history in making the first time ever clinching a space in the NAIA football playoffs. While the game didn't end the way we wanted it this past weekend, we did have an outstanding season, and congratulations to our new football coach this year and our outstanding student athletes. I want to spend just a few minutes talking about how important education is to not only our community in the city of Fort Worth, but to Texas Wesleyan University. We have a long-standing history and commitment to serving Fort Worth ISD students and teachers. This has been rooted in collaboration and a shared vision for all students. You may have seen just a couple of days ago that the Fort Worth Report, thank you to Jacob, for an outstanding story on our Leadership Academy Network. And I do want to, I'm sure she'll be recognized at some point, but Dr. Priscilla Dilley is with us. Where is Dr. Dilley? Yes. So 7 years ago, Texas Wesleyan University, under the leadership of Dr. Dilley, started the Leadership Academy Network, where we partnered with Fort Worth ISD lowest performing schools. Today, those schools are no longer at the bottom of the list, thanks to the work of the Leadership Academy Network and many individuals around this room, including several foundations that help support that. It is truly an outstanding program. And yes, we would love to partner with additional schools for the Leadership Academy Network. I've been asked that question already tonight, so I just wanted to go ahead and answer that. In addition to that, the Fort Worth Star-Telegram spotlighted our innovation on the teacher residency program just a few weeks ago as well. This teacher residency program is a full year hands-on program for our teacher candidates to get into the classroom and have a full experience during their internship program. There are many different opportunities for Texas Wesleyan to partner with Fort Worth ISD. I just want to share a little bit about the students that we serve here at our university. Out of our top 10 feeder high schools this past fall semester, 7 of those 10 high schools are Fort Worth ISD schools. We are serving the students of Fort Worth ISD here at the university. In addition to that, 1/4, 25% of all of our undergraduate students are graduates of Fort Worth ISD. So it is important that we are here serving those students, but that you are all here so that we can make a difference during that K-12 experience in college and beyond once they go into the workforce here in the city of Fort Worth. So we're excited about this opportunity. I want to say thank you to this distinguished panel that's here with us today. We are always delighted to host the Fort Worth Report events here on our campus. Thank you for being with us and look forward to a great presentation.
Soon you'll hear from senior education reporter Jacob Sanchez, who will serve as moderator this evening. Jacob's reporting always opens my eyes to something I should pay attention to. You may not know that Jacob is also the manager of our fellows or our interns, and I know that I would have wanted a mentor like him when I was in journalism school. Before I welcome Jacob to introduce our panelists, and thank you again for being here, please allow me to recognize our gold sponsor, Tarleton State Fort Worth, and invite Dr. Rachel Capua up to say a few words.
Well, good evening, everyone. So to Dr. Metzner and Texas Wesleyan team, thank you for hosting us today and to the Fort Worth Report for this time. You know, there's actually a word that might resonate with us the most this evening, and I'm going to say the word, and I thought perhaps we might just take it in for a moment. And that word is hope. Just think about it for a second. Hope that we have individuals at this table and at the tables here and in this room and other rooms. Hope that we have educators and leaders. Hope that we have teachers in the classrooms and kiddos that we serve every single day. On behalf of Tarleton State University and our president, Dr. James Hurley, and our team here with us tonight, hope is what this perhaps is about. You'll hear Secretary Geren say often that this isn't just about one solution. This isn't just about each of us doing our part individually. It's about doing this work together. That individuals and representatives and organizations like the Chamber, Fort Worth Chamber, the Hispanic Chamber, the organizations like the Tarrant 2 and 3 Partnership, foundations like Sid Richardson and North Texas Community Foundation, and all the things that we're doing, hope. Our mayor said recently that Fort Worth can do hard things. Am I right? You think about it, Fort Worth can do hard things. And the reason why Mayor Parker said that is because the organizations and the individuals in this room, there's no doubt, but that it's going to take solutions, collective solutions, to do what we do. And I am here committed with our team and these individuals as colleagues and as friends, all of us, to say, to do this work together. It may take teacher residency programs, which we care passionately about at Tarleton State. It may take coaching and teaching and time with students, which we care passionately about at Tarleton State. I know all of us do. We wouldn't be here otherwise. And so I'll say in closing, because I know we don't have time to talk specifics. That's why we're here to hear from these individuals. But we are proud to be in this with you. We are proud to do the work every single day. It's hard, complex work, but let's continue doing that work together and have hope in that. And a few words of closing. Number one, we're real proud that Dr. Molinar is a Tarleton State Texan, a graduate of Tarleton State. We should talk to that. We should, because we are honored that you are in this space. We are honored that we have a new incoming dean for our College of Education, Dr. Leslie Leach, which I hope you can connect with. So we're so excited for Dr. Leach to join our team. And we are just really proud to be in a city that we all love, Fort Worth, and to do this work together. So with that, let the conversation I know begin, and we're honored to be here. Thanks so much.
Thank you. And I just have a few more words of thanks, especially to our co-presenting sponsors, BNSF Railway, Hillwood, Texas A&M, UMB Bank, and the Fort Worth Chamber of Commerce. My Aggie husband would love that. And thanks to all of our sponsors who make events like this possible: the North Texas Community Foundation, Fargo Consultants, Lockheed Martin, Real Estate Council of Greater Fort Worth, Mental Health Connection of Tarrant County, United Way, Texas Wesleyan University. Thanks also to Benicio Cinta and the UTA Department of Communication for live streaming this event tonight. And hello to Mitch in California. We know you're watching. Thanks to you, finally, last but not least, all of you here tonight, our readers, We just reached 1,800 members today. And I know no one in this room has gotten an email about something called Giving Tuesday, right? Giving Tuesday today is a global day of generosity. It was created, this is something I learned today. It was created and incubated at the 92nd Street Y in New York in 2012 with a simple idea, a day that encourages people to do good. You've all done good by being here, by coming together tonight, by choosing to be part of this community. You can further your commitment by becoming a member of the Fort Worth Report and making a donation that is meaningful to you. Thanks to a triple match, any contribution made before midnight tonight will go 3 times as far. We sincerely appreciate your consideration. Now, the reason we're here, it is my pleasure to welcome Jacob Sanchez, who will introduce our esteemed panel. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. So we're going to get started quickly. I want to kind of get straight to the conversation. We're here to talk about how do we turn around Fort Worth ISD. I'm not going to go through the data because we have written about it. It's out in public. We'll do your homework for you when you read our story later tomorrow too. And I want to introduce, or first off, our questions tonight are based on what we heard from readers. We asked our audience what they would ask our panel, and we incorporated them into the questions that I'll be asking tonight. So our panelists, let's meet them. So on that end is Pete Geren, President and CEO of the Sid W. Richardson Foundation. And then there's Reid Goetz, who is Senior Vice President of Hillwood. Then next to Reid is Roxanne Martinez, Fort Worth ISD School Board President. And then finally is Geren Molinar, the interim superintendent of Fort Worth ISD. So let's get started. And this question is going to be for everyone. How serious is the problem that we're facing right now? But we're going to start with Pete. Pete, you've beaten the drum about this issue for several years. Can you briefly outline for the audience where we are now?
One thing quickly, we didn't introduce Pat Hardy. She's been on the State Board of Education for 20 years, and she's just now stepping down. Great champion for Fort Worth and for public education. Pat is great. So thank you, Jacob. I spent most of my adult life in government, in the federal government, in and around it. I've spent 15 years in philanthropy. And when I look at the challenge we have with any government, I draw more on my experience in government than I do on my experience in philanthropy. So let's set the stage for what we're working with. Fort Worth ISD is a government agency, has over 11,000 employees, and a combined budget, if you consider operations and construction, of over $1 billion a year. It's big government. And we're here tonight to talk about a turnaround for that massive enterprise. So let me first say there are no silver bullets. We all have our ideas, but this is big government. The only way to change big government is through the democratic process. And that's the way it should be. That's what our framers had in mind when they built this great country of ours. That's the American experience. That's the way it should be, and that's the way it must be. So where do we start? What is the problem we're trying to solve? And then let's talk about the roles and responsibilities of everybody that must be a part of the solution. Starts with the superintendent, the school board, every one of us in this room, every citizen in Fort Worth, our city council, our mayor, and the press. All have our key players, all have roles, all have responsibilities in addressing this. Name the problem. At a recent breakfast, and Dr. Messer was at that breakfast, the principal of one of the largest high schools in Fort Worth was there. And somebody at the table asked the principal, "What's your biggest challenge?" And without hesitation, that principal said, "The kids that come into 9th grade here can't read." Principal of one of our biggest high schools. He named the problem for us. Our kids can't read. When you think about that, is that an anecdote, just one place? Well, no. Thanks to the reporting of the Fort Worth Report and the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, we know that's not a one-off anecdote. And at her first board meeting as superintendent, Dr. Molinar acknowledged that. She embraced transparency, and she challenged everybody in her organization to do better. That takes guts. Thank you, Dr. Molinar. So what are our roles and responsibilities? The superintendent's role. She's a CEO of a $1 billion plus government agency, like the city manager of Fort Worth or a county executive for Tarrant County. The superintendent answers to the school board. The school board hires her. She reports to it. The school board's responsibility, and that's so important for us to understand, the school board's responsibility is not only to hire her, but to set clear goals, require transparency, and hold the superintendent accountable. Doesn't work if the school board doesn't do this. Everything else you're tinkering around the edges. Where do we citizens fit in? What are our roles and responsibilities? My time in government, I can tell you, our role, your role, is the most important one of all. The school board members work for us. If we shirk that role and our responsibility as citizens, our kids are never going to learn to read. How do we fill that role and perform our responsibilities? Well, maybe you run for school board, but we must stay informed and we must vote and we must hold school board members accountable, or our kids will never learn to read. Back to the problem. Most of our kids cannot read proficiently. That is a civic and moral crisis that affects everyone in Fort Worth, That's where the mayor and city council come in. Literacy is essential for a healthy, safe, prosperous, and growing city. I don't care if you're most concerned about public safety or you're most concerned about workforce. It all starts with literacy. We must hold those leaders accountable and insist they fulfill their responsibilities to our kids, their constituents. And finally, the press. For the democratic process to work, the press cannot let us down. The press cannot let us down. I know big government does not like transparency. I know that. The press must be relentless. The principal named the problem for us, our kids can't read. Our system is set up to solve big problems. Democracy can solve big problems. We've got to put democracy to work.
Thank you, Pete. Reid, you're a parent at Fort Worth ISD, and kind of tell us how serious is the problem that we're seeing in the district?
Sure, and thank you, Pete, and a lot of which, I agree with what you said. So just a little bit of quick background. Not only am I a parent, but I also am a graduate of Fort Worth ISD, and so is my wife. And I graduated from Pascal and my wife Heiss, and thankfully, but somehow her dad let a Pascal grad in the door, told him we're gonna get married. I take a lot of pride in that because my own personal experiences in growing up through the ISD was wonderful, and several teachers that had a big impact on my life and who really taught me to be able to not only learn but also have character and do all the things and be in athletics, and really encouraging environment. And we made the decision to go through that with our kids as well. And so we're experiencing the same. If there's the avenue, at least within the part of the district that we're in, to where if you want to ultimately go to a college, there's a path and avenue in which to do it. And I think that's important to also talk about and understand as we talk about a very large district. If you think about just, again, the Pascal pyramid, for example, the enrollment from a student base is basically the same enrollment as a Toledo ISD or a Carroll ISD. That's just one piece of the district. So I think that's an important distinction as we think about the district as a whole, not to diminish any of the issues or responsibility to fix those issues at all, but we have to also just understand the components that build into that. And so, the teachers are wonderful. And our experiences with our children are no different. I think that there are very obvious opportunities in which to make it great and to make it better. And I think it starts with culture within the district itself, but also the culture of our business community. And you think about how we might, for those that went to college, and you look at state level universities, for example, and our big state universities in this state, whether it's Texas or Texas A&M or Tech, and you think about if those organizations only relied on state funding and state support, would they be the great institutions that they are today? And the answer is no. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of community involvement, funding, but more importantly, just time and hours and contribution. And I think that's the opportunity here within Fort Worth and Fort Worth ISD, because it's not going anywhere. And it's a part of a fabric of our community and our lives. And so I think the issue, and I'll pause, is very, it's urgent. I think it's very fixable. And I think it starts with culture and leadership and all the things we're going to talk about tonight.
Roxanne, what are your thoughts? You're a parent, you're a Fort Worth ISD alum, and you're school board president.
Yeah, first, before I get into it, I do want to recognize that there are, my fellow colleagues on the board are here, and so I did see Trustee Dar, Trustee Lobanos, and Trustee Bridges, so I wanted to recognize them. Also saw in the audience as I was coming in, several of our educators and our administrators and our staff, so I want to just thank them for being here and for all that they do. Jacob, the first thing you said is I'm a parent, and that is what first brought me to this position, and I'm a product of Fort Worth ISD. And it sounds like our experiences may have been a little different in being a product of Fort Worth ISD. I recall I attended Diamond Hill Jarvis High School. That's my neighborhood school. That's the neighborhood I still live in, represented in the neighborhood where my children currently attend school. I recall a time when we faced many similar challenges. I remember attending school that where we constantly got a threat of possibly being shut down. And back then it was the TOPS test that was on everyone's radar and what everyone was concerned about back then. I remember also not having access to some of AP courses that I would have liked to have had access to back then. But I was able to go over to Pascal and take some of those courses. And so I have a bit of a different experience growing up as a product of Fort Worth ISD. My husband and I made the decision to put our kids into Fort Worth ISD in the very neighborhood where we grew up. And that was very intentional. So as a parent and as a product of Fort Worth ISD, I've seen firsthand many of the challenges that we'll be talking about today. I am not a educator in the traditional sense, but I have educated. As a matter of fact, by the time that I was in high school, I was the most educated reader in my family. And being now a school board trustee and facing the literacy crisis that we're in, it's caused me to reflect a lot on the process of my own literacy journey. And as I also consider the role that I now play as a school board trustee. As been mentioned, our role is to set goals for the district, to monitor the progress, and to hold our superintendent accountable. Those are things I know, we'll talk more, we'll dive into some of those a little more today, but, the reason that I ran for this role, this position is, first and foremost, because students asked me for representation. Students that I knew and worked with very well for many years in schools knew and are well aware that I was aware of many of the challenges that some of our schools face. Again, being a product, I've seen it firsthand as a student, now I see it as a parent. my children attend their neighborhood middle school, and have always attended Fort Worth ISD, so I've seen a lot of the challenges. I myself have navigated through the challenges of having a child with dyslexia and that journey. And so bring all of that in my lens as a school board trustee to say that, I take that all in and consider that in my role as a trustee. I know we're going to dive a little bit into it, but again, you asked, where are we now? I think we all know we are facing a literacy crisis. We're at a critical moment. For us as a board, we know this is a time for transformation.
Dr. Molinar, you've worked in the district for almost 3 decades, and your daughter graduated from the district too. So you have 2 different states in here. And kind of tell us where we are now.
Well, thank you for calling my age out, Jacob. But yes, I'm actually, wasn't born and raised in Fort Worth, from the East Coast. You'll see that come out this evening as I talk. Also talk with my hands a lot. But recruited here from the East Coast from a teacher's college. I specifically went to school to be an educator because I was raised that education is the way, and chose my path to attend a college that trained you to be a teacher around literacy. And Fort Worth ISD recruited me to come teach. Left my whole entire family 1,500 miles and came here, never looked back. 1 year, but came right back. That's a different story. But this is my home, and Fort Worth ISD has raised me to be the leader I am. Many mentors, many in this room right now, that has raised me to be in this place. We are definitely in a crisis, and for me, it is a do something now, but then I also have to plan the system to build a strategy for the long term. So I'm in 2 different modes every single day, and that's how we all have to be right now in this city, and for the board and for accountability. We have students sitting in 3rd grade that are not on grade level. I have kindergartners right now who getting ready to enter the 2nd semester who are not the level they need to be with their sounds and letter recognition. I have 8th grade students from last year who are 9th graders getting ready to take an English 1 EOC for the first time, who are our lowest scoring students last year on the STAR test. That's my urgency right now, that we have to intervene, but we can't live in intervention. So when Mr. Geren talks about a government and a system, the only way any government or a system or a big organization is successful is to plan and strategize. And that's the 2nd mode that I'm in, this team that's sitting over there and spread out throughout the room that are here tonight. We are in both modes right now. And it is going to take a plan. It's going to take commitment to that plan, where it's not coming up with a program that we buy from a vendor. It is a plan on how we build the capacity at the classroom level for our teachers and work with our teachers and support our teachers. So we're not in an intervention crisis mode, but we're in a system, work in the system and work in the plan mode. And we are, my first vacancy that I was able to fill, thank you, Roxanne and trustees for allowing me to do that, was to take a current vacant position and turn it into a transformation accountability department. So that is our planning department. Every department has to run through an initiative through that department. What's the strategy to improve student achievement? What's the budget alignment to improve student achievement? The urgency of the right now, the intervention, but then what is the strategy for the long term to build the capacity of our teachers? It's not our teachers' fault. Universities are trying their hardest to want to build teachers and get students to want to graduate to be teachers. That's not a profession people are going in, and they're not coming out able to teach our students how to read. So we have to take that on. So we have to build that into our plan and our strategy to support them as well.
Jacob, can I just follow up on that very quickly? What you heard from Dr. Molinar just then, the candor that she displayed, the transparency, I've never heard a superintendent ever do that before. That's extraordinary. Thank you for that.
We're going to stick with you, Dr. Molinar. So we've talked about this, I've talked to people in the community who ask, how can you be a change agent, right? You've been here for a while, you were under previous superintendents. So how can you be a change agent, and what's different this time?
So I get that question a lot. And, honestly, that's a conversation that I've had with some of my closest friends. And I think it's a change agent versus knowing what the problem is. And I already know what the problem is that we have. I already know our system. I already know where I can walk into a classroom and see the best teaching ever. I know which principal that we need to go, and we need to take what they're doing and get them to train our new principals. I know the best PLCs in Benbrook Elementary that's coming out of that school.
What's a PLC real quick?
Professional Learning Community, sorry, we love acronyms in education, professional learning. I know already what we need to do and what we need to replicate. I can go to a land school, which we highlight, we love our partnership, and I can ask Dr. Dilley, can we bring a group of teachers? I have EDs over there that are going there and they're learning from the land school. The relationships are there, the partnerships are here. Like, I can bring that. If that's what a change agent it needs, that's what they do, to take something and replicate it and bring the best internally into your system, then I'm your change agent. I don't think that's rocket science, but I know where to find it. I don't have to spend a year doing a listening tour. People come and tell me, every day, check my email box, right? I don't need to go listen. I already know. It's just that now let me do my thing is really what it is. And that's when my East Coast comes out. Let me get in there, let me do my work, let me be the lead on the work, and hold me accountable. I've never been scared to work hard, and I'm not scared of accountability.
Roxanne, sounds like you already have a superintendent, right? It's kind of playing off of that, the board hired the previous superintendent and has to assume the responsibility that we're still here, right? That's just part of the job. What will the board do differently this time?
Well, the board's ready. We're ready to develop, like I said, we're in a place of transformation. We're ready to adopt bold, ambitious goals especially around literacy for all students. That has to be our top priority. We owe it to our students and families. And like you said, we take accountability for where we are. As a district, we know that we're going to need an evidence-based plan, and that's what Dr. Molinar has. She, has a focus on literacy and all the necessary interventions that are needed. And so that's something that we are ready and set to do. We will be bringing those bold, ambitious goals out to the community soon. And we'll also be sharing a plan, more about Dr. Molinar's plan. But it's going to take all of us. It's going to take all of us to accomplish this work. Of course, as a board, we know that we're going to be tracking progress and holding Dr. Molinar accountable. But we're also going to need to be out there engaging our stakeholders, engaging our parents, our families, rebuilding some of our community and business partnerships. Just thinking about this forum today, it kind of had me reflecting a little bit about my work. Prior to being a board trustee, I worked with Reid Fort Worth and that collective impact when everyone in the city was focused on literacy. We need that type of urgency. We need everyone on board. Once we have our goals, we share those goals, we need everyone's help and support working towards those. And that's one of the things, part of Dr. Molinar's plan is to help us reestablish some of those. But the board will also be going out and engaging with families. We have already seen some of that, working through groups like Parent Shield and Concilio. But as a board, we have to go out and engage with our parents and our families and really help them understand that literacy starts at home before a child ever steps foot on our campus. As the oldest child in my family, I remember teaching my younger siblings how to read. And as I previously mentioned, by the time I got to high school, I was the most educated reader in my family. Fort Worth ISD is filled with families like mine. And we have to meet those families and those parents where they are and support them and bring them the resources that they need to help their children be successful.
And that's a perfect segue for my next question. And it is for Reid. I mean, we look at Fort Worth ISD, and I think your story and Roxanne's story kind of highlight this. The enrollment increasingly looks more like me and her versus like you, Reid. But you represent the type of people that have the ability and the money to lead the districts. Why did you stay? And how can we make Fort Worth ISD the district of choice?
Well, we're in this district because we feel like our children can get the education that the level and standard in which we want for our family, and also the experience that will prepare them for going out in the world. And that's really important to us. And we're very prideful of where we come from and supporting this community. And so, if that weren't the case, then our decision may be a little bit different. But I think where it's the importance of kind of the moment, call it. And from a pure business perspective, we deal a lot with workforce development. We deal a lot with attracting businesses to the city of Fort Worth and working in our Alliance Texas Development. We had the privilege of working with over 500 companies that over 35 years has grown into a workforce of over 66,000 people that are working. And we spend a lot of time working with our community and education partners to help not only develop curriculum and educate administrators and teachers into what the work, the job, what the companies in which we're recruiting here are looking for. And that's the essence of really what we've done in Alliance is public-private partnership. And I think that, Dr. Molinar, everything that you're saying is very encouraging and what everybody I think is here tonight to want to hear. From a business community standpoint, that'll galvanize, I think, the business community and culture here to step in and understand how to help, whether it's through funding, whether it's through resources, time and effort to which prepare those kids that are graduating from Fort Worth ISD to enter the workforce to be successful, because this area is going to grow. I mean, we're adding in DFW alone over 375 people a day. And the opportunity to really help shape the next generations of Fort Worth residents and workforce this is the moment that can help really drive that in the future.
Especially for our largest school district that's inside the loop, it represents most of our students in the city out of the 12 school districts. For Pete, we've talked about this. Foundations have poured millions into charter schools that are largely separate from the district. At the same time, you're opposed to vouchers. We know that's going to be an issue coming up in January. Can you speak to the criticism you've heard that you're trying to damage traditional public schools?
We have a literacy crisis in this community. That literacy crisis is only going to be addressed by the traditional independent school districts. That's where our interest is. That's where our emphasis must be. We've got 12 independent school districts that serve the kids that live in the city of Fort Worth. That's the only place that we can make a difference. That's the only way we can address this literacy crisis. And the system is set up to hear from all of us citizens. Roxanne mentioned dyslexia. She now and other school board members are working with leaders in our community that have brought that issue in front of the school board. Dyslexia affects 15 to 20% of our kids. Those children, if they aren't diagnosed and you don't have intervention, they're going to struggle. You have community leaders that went down, presented to the school board, met with school board members, invited school board members with dyslexia, experiences, submersion, wrong, to those concerns and you're changing that problem. I'm confident that you're going to put more resources in dyslexia. The system responds. We're set up to hear from citizens. You're set up to hear from citizens. Parent portal was not easy to use. A citizen went down there week after week after week and said, this doesn't work for us. Y'all fixed it. The gentleman over here, one of my friends from Old Crestwood Neighbors, said, we need to ban cell phones in classrooms. I said, you need to go to the school board and talk to them about it. They'll listen to you. They'll hear. They want to hear from you. The system will embrace our input. The system, Roxanne and all of her colleagues, Ann, Wallace, Aniel, they want to hear from you. They want to work for you. You present those issues to them. They're going to make it work. That's the way the system works. It works from the inside out.
Would you like to add anything, Dr. Molinar or Roxanne?
I just want to say that, we have had very generous funders for Fort Worth ISD in the past, and I don't feel when they pivot and they support other choices that it's against us. It's for our students. All of our students are part of the city and their families, and some of them have siblings with us, and some have made other choices within that family. But I don't like it when we pit public independent school districts against charter schools. I think it's another thing we all can learn from each other and work together. And a lot of our students go back and forth. They have a choice. My job is to make sure we're their first choice. And when we're not, why? And that's when we're listening to our parents. We are starting to ask for parents when they withdraw. We do exit interviews and ask them, why are you leaving us? And sometimes it's not the school district. It's, they have to move, it could be economically, it's not the place for them any longer. They're moving. It could be, related to their parents or something, their family. But if we don't ask why they're leaving, we're just making assumptions. So it's our job to figure that out too. And we do want to listen. That's one of the things I'm concentrating on, the first weeks on, as interim, is I'm asking people, come back. Because I feel like we have shut our partners out, we've shut our families out, and I'm asking you to come back. And when you want to engage, I want to be there, and however you want to engage with us. And so that's something you're going to see next week in our board meeting when I do my superintendent report, is asking you to re-engage with us on the level you feel comfortable with as well. Because we do need to do this as a city. And I appreciate Mayor Parker. Because you know what, she came down to the school board, but she came down and said, I'm here to help. And the city's here to help. Now, if we don't take advantage of that and take you up on it, that's my fault. So I'm going to be asking for that help and engagement.
I kind of want to go off of that. I'm going to go off my script. For a couple of with Roxanne, and we'll go back to you, Dr. Molinar. You referenced the mayor, and she had the letter with board community leaders, and they said they would help the district and make change happen for Fort Worth ISD. How do you plan to put them to work? Is it like a kitchen cabinet sort of deal, Roxanne?
Well, that's all part of the plan. One of the things that we were able to meet with Mayor Parker recently and took her a list of things. So she said that she was ready to support. We came, Trustee Dar and Dr. Molinar myself met with her and brought her a list of things that she could support with and help with. Some of those things will be led by city efforts. Some of those things will be made available to the wider community. I know Dr. Molinar will be releasing more information on strategic partnerships and doctor school programs and ways that stakeholders can get directly involved in our schools. But yeah, we plan to take full advantage of that. Also, the other folks that signed that letter have called and emailed and asked and are ready and willing to support our public school system, and we plan to take full advantage of that. So we will have some call to actions, we will have a plan for engagement, and we'll be taking full advantage of that support.
Would you like anything, add anything, Dr. Molinar?
I'm trying to give away my
Yeah, I'm a reporter, come on.
December 12th.
It's just between us and my friends.
Yeah.
And Matthew will write a story about it.
I mean, just really to expand on what President Martinez has shared is everyone can engage and it's how they feel comfortable. But then I'm going to repeat myself. We have to allow that engagement. How do we allow that back into our school district, back into our schools and welcome it? It's not always going to be positive, but that's how we grow. You know, we need to hear what's not working. Had wonderful email strand over the holiday about a campus with a one-way street that's not working out. And I think this community member has put so much work with pictures, all kinds of details to me, to the city. And I was like, they care. They care about our kids. You know, maybe it's not around literacy, but they care about safety. And what's more important than literacy, safety, or vice versa, right? And I think that's the kind of people who is out there advocating for my kids on a holiday week and taking the time to do this. Celebrate that and acknowledge it.
I want to ask this question to all of y'all, and we're going to start with Pete. So we know conversations about improving Fort Worth ISD are happening across the city. I mean, this is an example of one of them, right? Often the school district is left out of those discussions. And this is probably one of the few times everyone's in the same room at the table to talk about this. What will change this time?
You have the community coming around and joining together on a specific goal, literacy. Literacy is job one. I don't think in my lifetime I've ever seen that sort of unanimity in the public sentiment. You have meetings about literacy. The President Martinez, it's a crisis. You have Dr. Molinar being very honest with the public, being transparent. And awareness, we have a literacy crisis. It's a moral crisis. It's a civic crisis. The mayor recognizes that. You cannot have a healthy city if you don't have a literate city. We've got to be a literacy city. And I've never seen in the years I've been back since my government where we had such unanimity of opinion over the number one issue facing our district. It's literacy. And when public opinion is on your side, I'm going to paraphrase Lincoln, you can do anything. If public opinion isn't on your side, you can do nothing. Public opinion is on the side of fixing literacy now, and our school board members, our superintendent, and our community broadly are seized of the importance of it and are all figuring out what they can do about it.
Reid, what are your thoughts?
I think it's the biggest public-private partnership opportunity of our generation. I truly believe that, and I think that Dr. Molinar, everything that you said, that you're going to be able to unlock the generosity and the passion and care of this community that is very willing and capable of stepping in and helping, and they just need a partner on the other side in which to do it. And the importance is, like we've said before, it's critical. We've got the city of Fort Worth that is operating at a high level. We have the fourth economic development partnership that's working to bring in businesses, and we've got this wave and opportunity of economic growth that this is really kind of the remaining pillar in which to really help strengthen. And I know this community, certainly from a business standpoint, is willing to step in and help. And so, whether it's creating roundtables with some of the business leaders in the city and opportunities in which we can make sure to help, I think it's a great moment.
Roxanne?
Yeah, I'll just add to that. Again, with the wave of community support, one of the biggest things I see a difference in is not just one part of the community. It's not just some of the community. For me, going into my fourth year on the board, I am seeing all community in Fort Worth come together, come to the table, come to me, emailing concerns, demanding, that we enact this transformation for our students and to better serve our students. So to me, it's again, goes back to that just collective impact. It's folks from stakeholders from all zip codes realizing that we have to do something for all of our students. So that's one thing. And then the other thing I think is the intention, the real intention around finding solutions to serve our students.
Dr. Molinar?
I think it's also supporting our teachers. They get up every day and no one gets up and says, I don't want to do the best for every student that shows up in my classroom. Helping them because they don't just focus on teaching reading and literacy. They're doing breakfast in the classroom. They're serving breakfast to our students. We're serving lunch. We're serving dinner. We have over 70 after-school sites. Tomorrow we're doing a grand opening for dozens of food pantries. This is our daily work, how we're taking care of the basic needs of our students. And I think this is how our community can lean in and help us as well. Like I said, I think there's a place for everyone to lean in. It doesn't have to be around literacy and tutoring and working in the classroom. It can be helping us take care of those food pantries. It can be the care closet. When I recognize Mr. Manning's here, who is helping us with facilities. He's on our COC and helping with our steering committee as well. So he's stepping in a different role to help us as a community member. We have Mr. Poole here and Chelsea Baldwin from UEA, our Associations for Our Teachers. They are a partner with us. They're about what works best for our teachers to keep them here and retain them here. Everyone wants us to succeed. And it's finding the right spot. I have the spot for you, believe me. I met Mr. Miller earlier. I don't know where he went, Mr. Miller. He's going to email me. I have a spot for Mr. Miller. I have a spot for everyone. We have spot space.
And Jacob, I just want to also add, ditto to what Dr. Molinar said, our educators. I go into classrooms, go into campuses, and I see the urgency that our educators are working hard day in, day out. I mean, kudos to my son's first grade teacher who didn't give up on him, that knew he had dyslexia, that told me to stay on it, told me how to advocate for him, and kept in touch through the process until we got the services that we needed. Our educators are doing the work every day, day in, day out, and there is a urgency in the classroom. So thank you to all our educators.
Dr. Molinar. This question's not going to be surprising. We've already talked about it a little bit. He just mentioned it, and you've set up this new department, your data war room, as you said during the school board meeting. How will that and your push for greater transparency deliver results for our students and our community?
So we talk a lot about how there's not a silver bullet. Well, I want to go deeper than that. Every student has a different need. Every school has a different need. Some of the best characteristics about this city is how different our city is in different parts of it. We have schools who need a lot more. We have student groups who need a lot more. I'm going to call it out. My African American students, they need some urgent interventions. They need more. Those campuses need more. But then I have my students who are gifted and talented, our APs, who are not scoring 3s and 4s on those AP tests. Like, why? Why are they not? They're going through the coursework, but they're not getting that score on that test. So we have these two spectrums here. And so I need one department that says, what strategy does each campus need? What are we missing on that campus to make it successful? We have over 130 schools that we serve. It cannot be the same thing for every school. It can't really be the same thing for every teacher even. But we've got to start somewhere. What does that school need? What interventions, what long-term strategy, what leader as a principal, what type of teachers do they need for the students, what after-school program, what enrichments do they need? And so I need to have that department that looks at data in a very different way. And I need research-based, proven results for initiatives to implement, not ideas. Ideas are great if you can back it up with data that it has worked and it's research-based. And that's going to be the charge of that department. Nancy Stixel's here. She's coming back to us. She's leading that department. She's, 10, 11, 12 days in.
She hasn't quit yet, I don't know, but, but that's what, I need that think tank. She has the experience, she's worked nationally with turnaround, transformation, and we can do this. It's not gonna be overnight, but we need to take it campus by campus, what's the need, and deliver that need, and our budget has to support it. What things do we need to abandon? What are we having teachers do that takes the focus away from literacy? And then go ahead and give them permission. Stop doing this, because I need you to focus on literacy. I need every kindergarten student to leave kindergarten with letter recognition and sound. Done. Like, that's what my expectation is for literacy for kindergarten.
I'm also glad you brought up the budget and school buildings. And I think this is a question for you and Roxanne. We know the school district has to close campuses at some point. It's a politically unpopular move. It's happening across the nation. It's a hard decision. It's very hard. How can a district do what has to be done and still build community support? We'll start with Roxanne.
Yeah, I mean, we do, as a board, we have to be fiscally, good stewards of our budget and fiscally responsible. We know, and I think the community knows, that with declining enrollment and where we are today, that it makes sense to consolidate some campuses and put more resources into the campuses that remain open. We currently have a task force committee made up of community members. They are really driving the ideas and solutions. We are, listening to the community. I said it from the very beginning, and when we first talked about consolidating campuses, we have to have the community's buy-in, community support. With the community support, we will be able to determine what's the best route, where do we start with consolidating schools, what makes most sense for each community. Just like Dr. Molinar said, that each campus is different, each community is different. We need to hear directly from those communities on how they will be impacted. Then we've looked at, of course, everything that we do is driven by data. So we've looked at research and what makes sense of just in the area, the radius of where we're serving the most students. Where does it make sense to have campus? Those are things that we're looking at, so based backed by data, but also driven by community member input and support. That's how we will accomplish a very hard thing.
I think communication is the key, and transparency. You're going to be tired of hearing me say that, but I have to be transparent of why. It's just not loss of enrollment, it's also educational opportunities. How can we improve programs? How can we recruit teachers and retain the best teachers? And when you are running that many campuses that are not at capacity, you're spreading your talent out as well. How can we take that talent and consolidate it and do more for our students? How do we take the efficiencies of those campus closures and put it back in the classroom, back into strategic planning and intervention, both ends, that we can meet our goal? And to do that, we have to make those hard decisions, but we have to tell her why. We have to share. This is when we need our partnership and our community, everyone sitting in this room. These are hard decisions that we have to put forward for board action. And the more we can talk about it, the more we're transparent and share. It's still emotional, but our board needs help and cover to make those decisions as well. They're very hard recommendations that they take, are recommendations, but it's emotional. But what's the outcome for our students? We're planning for students that are not even born yet. And that's what we have to remember when we make these decisions about school closures, consolidations, building new schools, drawing boundary lines, because you're redrawing lines. It's for students that we've never even met yet, but it's our job to prepare what's next and upcoming for them. And a facility that is at an educational capacity index that is at a 30% is not a building they need to learn in. That's not the right place for them. So allow us to put them in a better facility for their learning and help us with that. Help with the why, help your neighbor understand why, and then support your board member as they make that difficult vote each time we need to make it.
I'm going to wrap everything up. I have a final question for everyone. We're gonna start with Reid. How will we as a community know that we're on the right track as we turn around Fort Worth ISD? And what measurements should we be watching for?
Well, I think we've heard a lot of it tonight. The first one is just your literacy. And then I think that you're also going to start to see, as kind of a rising tide lifts all boats, if everything does work through the way that it can. And Dr. Molinar, I just want to say that I talked about culture at the very beginning, and there's a culture of when there's an issue, you lay out the issue, you lay out a plan to go fix it and address it, and it gets fixed and addressed. And I think that's a change in maybe a view in culture as to maybe how some issues have been worked through in the past with the ISD, and I think that'll galvanize a lot of support that has been sitting here that maybe hasn't been there yet. But I think it's measured in academic performance. I think it's measured in enrollment. And I think if you create an environment, when you think about it from a business perspective, if you create a workforce and a place that people want to be, whether it's your teachers, your staff, your students, your parents, and you start to have, just like we are in the city of Fort Worth, people are moving here because they want to be here, because we offer a product that is great, a living experience that is low cost, low tax, can do kind of business attitude. If you create that environment within a district, within a school, you're going to start to see those numbers maybe come back in a different way in different places. And so that's how I would think about it.
Roxanne, what do you think? What measurements should we be looking for success and turnaround?
Well, as a board trustee, I will say that, we will be looking at setting our bold, measurable goals and being able to track those coming soon. But for me, I think what the true measure will be is when all students, despite race, despite zip code, despite socioeconomic status, are thriving and achieving academic success. When we can truly say that all of our students are achieving academic success, that is the threshold for me.
Pete, what do you think?
I think that when I have breakfast with that principal and he can tell me, you know what, my ninth graders can read, then we know we made progress. I gave a speech here in the fall, and a middle school teacher came up to me afterwards. She said, I teach middle school, I teach civics. Nobody in my classroom can read. I can't even use a whiteboard. When she comes up to me at the next speech and said, you know what, we're making progress. The kids in my class can read. How do we keep this on our minds? We're excited about it now. The community's excited about it now. What are little reminders that can remind us throughout the course of the day? We have a literacy crisis, and it's not just the Fort Worth ISD, it's the city of Fort Worth. That's why the mayor's involved. There's 12 school districts serve the kids in the city of Fort Worth. 12 school districts, 170,000 kids. Half of those kids in all of those school districts, that includes schools that Keller operates in the city of Fort Worth, half of them can read at grade level. Now, Gary Cumbie knows where I'm going with this. So a reminder I'd like to just plant with you as you drive around. As you drive around Fort Worth and Tarrant County, you're going to share the road with a lot of school buses taking kids to schools in Fort Worth, some Fort Worth ISD, some Keller, some Eagle Mountain Saginaw. When you see that school bus, what are there, 50 or 40 kids in the school bus, Geren? 70. 70 kids in the school bus. Do the arithmetic. Only half of the kids in the city of Fort Worth, regardless of what school district you're talking about, can read at grade level. So when you see that school bus in front of you or alongside you or passing you, do the arithmetic. Half of those kids cannot read at grade level. And what do we know about a child that can't read at grade level? 2% of children who are not reading at grade level graduate high school, college ready. 2%. Only 20% of all students get a post-secondary credential. For the kids who can't read at grade level in third grade, the number is minuscule. So when you see those school buses, do the arithmetic. 70 times, it'd be easier if it was 50. 70 times 50%, 35 of those kids. You pull up next to that school bus, think there's 35 of those kids who don't have much of a chance. What am I going to do about it? Thanks.
There's also a math crisis, but I think that's a whole different topic. That's a whole different day. It's a lot more complicated.
Well, you can't do math if you can't read. You can't do science if you can't read.
Dr. Molinar? Same question. How will we know as a community that we're on the right track, and what are some specific measurements that we should be looking for?
Well, you know, we're held accountable. We talk about accountability this evening. We're held accountable by the state, by Texas Education Agency. So whatever they put in before us, we should be able to conquer. Whether that's a star point 2.8, 20.2, you know, whatever it is, that we are definitely held accountable to that standard. For me, at this point, it's a decrease in our DNFs, an increase in our A's and B's campuses. It's on grade level for every grade level. When they finish at grade level, they have mastered those standards. It's more an increase in certifications for our students who may not choose college, but they're choosing a career and they have a certification. We have a very robust CTE program, but they're not achieving certifications. That's a literacy issue as well. It's scholarship money. I want to see increase of scholarship money, but then our students taking advantage of that scholarship money and they're entering into a 2-year college, a 4-year college and beyond. It's a retention of teachers. That teachers want to stay with us, that they feel supported, that the culture and the climate of the district has changed, that they feel the city loves them, and they feel that support, and they stay with us. They stay with us more than 2 years, 3 years. They don't abandon us for Keller or Crowley, rocket ship, but they say, I want to be a Fort Worth ISD teacher. We go to a recruitment job fair, our line's out the door, because we are a destination. Like that to me is success. And that's how I want to measure my success.
Join me in thanking our panelists tonight. Now, I have some final remarks. We're not doing audience questions. I'm sorry, we incorporated them to our questions. I want to thank our gold sponsor, Tarleton State University, and all of our sponsors for helping ensure that we can do these events. It is Giving Tuesday, and we all have these things called smartphones to consider donating to us, and we can keep having these events. This journalism is crucial, as you can see, and journalism is not free to produce. So if you want to sponsor one of these future events, talk to Jody Newton, our Director of Corporate and Community Relations. I don't see you, there she is, way in the back. She's waiting. And we also have Fort Worth Report membership opportunities too. Another thing that we have going on right now that's been extended is this cool certificate book called Fort Worth Report Eats. It's like right there. It's like a coupon book. You get a lot of free things from restaurants. And it's $100 for 200, it has a value of $280. There's 14 restaurants, and you can get one through January 30th. Also be sure to follow us on social media. Facebook, Twitter, or apps, if you want to call it that, all the social media. And we have some upcoming events that you should have on your calendars now. We have a listening session, January 8th. Then after that, our next Candid Conversation is on Tarrant County Mental Health on February 27th. Thank you.